the coolest heads in all of college football as a quarterback. His poise is insane. He has one of the best arms. He's a left-handed quarterback, which is different. It makes him unique. He has great relationships with his wide receivers. He has a great relationship with Nick Saban. He keeps a positive attitude at all times, which is something that you can't really teach. I mean, it's something that is just innate within him to be a competitor that always is level-headed, that doesn't let his emotions get the best of him. He just plays the next play. Short-term memory, that's something you cannot teach. I've played football for 10 or 11 years, and having short-term memory, if you mess up on a play and getting back up the next play and trying to do something great is not something that any coach can teach you. It's something that you have to just, have within you. It's something you have to learn from within yourself. You got to have good self-control, and this guy is a perfect embodiment of that characteristic, and he's so young. He's a young guy. He's going to be a junior this year as well, which is going to mean that he's going to have an even better season, most likely, because he didn't have sophomore blues. He didn't have a bad season last year. He had a bad game last year. That's literally all he had. He had a bad game and a half. Yeah, he had a bad game and a half because Jalen Hurts had to come in and take him to the championship this past season, and then he had a bad game against Clemson. He just hadn't seen a lot of coverages in that championship game. They threw a lot at him that he just never seen before. Stuff that has been there all year for him. Certain routes that have been open for him all year just weren't there, and he just wasn't prepared for it. This year is going to be different. When you have a complete offseason as a starting quarterback under Alabama, things are going to go well for you. It's just like Kellen Mond with Jimbo Fisher. Things will go well for you if you can have a complete developmental period with one of the best. And this guy has it, just like Kellen Mond will. Tua is a guy that you can count on. Tua is a guy that I would watch out for extremely. And like I said, the difference between him and the number one pick here is so arbitrary that you couldn't even notice it on a number sheet. I mean, these guys are basically identical in my opinion. Which goes to number one, Mr. Trevor Lawrence. Now, I want to go ahead and start this guy's bio by saying this. When Kelly Bryant was in the first quarter, first half in the game against A&M, we were locking Clemson down. The game was very close. We had at least a 50% chance of winning the ball game at this point. And, we were basically getting to Kelly Bryant. We were getting in his head. He was not a very level-headed guy. He's one of the guys that will let his emotions get the best of him. He's a great skilled quarterback, don't get me wrong, but then they put Trevor Lawrence in the ball game. And, okay, you're thinking, yeah, he's a freshman. He's a young guy. But look what he can do with his arm. My goodness, this guy was making some throws down the seam, down the sideline, just in the bucket. And insane coverage. We were locking his receivers down, and he was still getting the ball through the needle right in the hands of his guy. I'm not saying that he won Clemson the game, because it was still close. Give credit to my Aggies. But it was still close, and Trevor Lawrence just kept a level head and kept playing. And, of course, that was second game of the season, so that was sort of the period of time when Dabo Swinney wasn't sure if who to start, if it was going to be Bryant, if he was going to start him or start Trevor Lawrence. Long story short, Kelly Bryant moved, and Trevor Lawrence took the helm, took the reins. Now, when we talk about keeping a level head, when we talk about playing through adversity, when we talk about experience, playing against coverages that you haven't seen before, when you play a team like Alabama who has an immaculate secondary, you got to respect a guy who does well against their pass defense. And Alabama took a little downsize off their pass defense this year because they lost a lot of guys. They lost Minka Fitzpatrick. They lost Marlon Humphrey the year before. They lost a lot of good leadership in the secondary. This season they'll be a lot better. Some of those young guys are growing up and getting more experience. But I really think that Trevor Lawrence, as a freshman, if you can dissect Alabama's defense, especially their secondary, not for a quarter, not for a half, not for 3/4, because that's not going to win you the ball game against Alabama. You got to be able to dissect every single defensive scheme in the secondary that they put out at you every play, because I guarantee you it's different on every single down. And he was able to dissect their defense on every single play and dominate the passing game. Sure, there were some broken coverages. Sure, there was some slip-ups here by some of their corners that led to touchdowns. But at the end of the day, Trevor Lawrence knew exactly where to look for those. He won. He won that game with his arm. Didn't have to do a lot with his legs. His offensive line did outstanding for him. He didn't even get touched by Alabama's defensive line and linebackers. He didn't get touched. Okay, his jersey, they were wearing white that game. His jersey was clean. I don't even think he broke a sweat. He didn't break a sweat in that game. That's why he's got to be number one. And it's literally by 0.0001% over Tua. Because both of these guys are young. Both of these guys are extremely talented. You got to give credence to the guy who wins. That's just how it works. There's winners and losers. And the guy who won gets the spot. That's really what it comes down to. That's the top 5 for college football quarterbacks going into the 2019 season. Let me know what you think on Instagram and Twitter. Again, it's The Throne Room. And then if you want to contact me personally, it's King__Alex__ on Instagram and AKingBoss99 on Twitter. Just let me know what you think of that list. If you disagree with me, hit me up, and I'd love to have you on the show, or just talk about what you said on the show. It'd be fun. It'd be good time all around. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Now we're gonna get into some other stuff here that I think is very important. First of all, if you're old enough to remember, and I think most of you will be, but the NCAA football games, the last one was I think 2014. So this is when NCAA changed their rules that no players' likenesses can be shown on anything, because then they'd have to pay them pretty much. So they stripped that away, meaning that would essentially discontinue the NCAA games, which is an atrocity, first of all, because 10 out of 10, I put money on this every time. NCAA is a better football game than Madden. It just is. It operates better. It's easier to control. They have a better what's the word? Where you start out as like a high school player and get recruited and then play like a full career at a college. That was insane. You get to make your own character, and I get you can do the same thing on Madden, and it's blah blah blah. Okay, but here's the thing. You can't replicate what NCAA was able to do. You can't. I have wholeheartedly... In fact, I probably would play NCAA 13 all the time when I used to play it. But, I don't really... And I have one of the newest Maddens. I don't play the newest Madden at all because it's just ridiculous how weird. It's just weirdly... I don't know, it's just weird to me. It's weird. I think NCAA is just more fun. It's easier to control. So, here's the story behind it, without me ranting about how good NCAA is as a video game. So, Big East Commissioner Val Ackerman and Ohio State Athletic Director Gene Smith will go to an NCAA panel to consider how the rules can be changed to allow athletes to be compensated for their names, images, and likenesses, which means that the 2013 ruling discontinuing NCAA football games will be overturned, and there is a good chance that if this works out, for Val Ackerman and Gene Smith in front of the NCAA panel that we could have an NCAA game coming to us for our consoles or PCs or whatever you play. I don't matter. Xbox is better. I'm just saying. This is huge. And it's just a proposal. There's nothing really that, is set in stone yet. This is mostly rumor, but the meeting is taking place. The NCAA is forming a panel to hear these guys out, to consider giving compensation, which I think is sort of repetitive. It's sort of redundant because here's why. Big name players like at big schools in the SEC or basketball even, these players get a lot of commodities. These players get a lot of things that isn't, tax deductible or whatever, but it's off the books. I mean, just take Zion for an example at Duke. He got anything he wanted. When he was on campus the first off season, he could get any candy he wanted, whatever food he wanted, whatever apparel, accessories he wanted from Duke for free. Not to mention your tuition is paid in full. You want for nothing on that campus. Any food is taken care of, any clothing you need is taken care of, housing is taken care of, tuition is your education is paid for. You want for nothing as a high-profile college athlete. You want for nothing. There's nothing that you could need that you don't have as a high-profile college athlete. You don't. You look at guys at Alabama, you look at guys at Clemson, at other big schools, Ohio State. These guys get like cars. And it's like, here, the school is giving you a car. Here it is. Full access to all the clubs, the training rooms, anything you want. Cafeteria, it's all paid for. Room and board is good. You are set. So what else are you going to give them? A paycheck? Because you're already spending thousands of dollars on these kids. That's their paycheck. Like when I do the yard here at my house, I don't do it to get money. I'm not getting like a check or like cash whenever I do yard work. I am doing it because my parents are paying for my room, they're paying for the AC, they're paying for water, they're paying for the internet, they're paying for the phone service, they're paying for my tuition. Now I pay for what I can, but they pay for a lot of what I have. I'm on the payroll, so to speak. But I still go to work. I still do stuff around the house. I don't get paid for it, but my payment, so to speak, are those things that I listed. So why then do why then do college players need paychecks? Why can't you use their likenesses? I've had this question in my mind ever since 2013. These players get a lot. And we can't play a video game because they don't get enough? What else do they need? What else do they need? I don't know. I don't get it. Oh, and here's another point. Even in the last NCAA games, or all of them, the names and likenesses, the likenesses were used, but like the names, they were different. The likenesses and numbers were the same, the stats were the same, but the names are completely different. So, it's sort of a little loophole there, but the NCAA nonetheless canceled that. So, if this meeting works out the way that I want it to, and a lot of millions of other people want it to, we could see another NCAA game. So, that's the good news for the week. Now, if you paid any attention to news out of Baylor for the last years, this has been a scandal, probably the longest scandal, in our lifetime, other than Ohio State. But this is probably trumps Ohio State's scandal, just nonstop. It seems to be a culture of the Baylor football team with all of the sexual assault allegations. Now, there have been some allegations with, like we saw with Sean Oakman, just a beast. If you don't know who Sean Oakman is, look him up. He's just